Hi, Dove here, and today we have a new episode in the art review series, and today we'll be doing a Sunday special episode where we go through some of the images I've downloaded over the week, and we're gonna do this to sort of end the art review week. It's kind of a great way to sort of just end things and just go through the random stuff I've been downloading, right? I actually expected to have a lot more artwork for this board. This one's actually a repeat. This artist, we've seen this before. I've tackled this specific artist, I think in the last Sunday special even, I believe. But yeah, I should have just dumped it over there, but yeah. It's sad though, because I think for their Twitter profile, this is their username. They don't have, I believe they privated. I'm not sure if it's all deleted or if they just privated all their posts, but it's kind of sad not being able to see the full sort of portfolio or body of work they have. But they're definitely one of the more direct painting types of people, very impressionistic. And they do have their favorite brush. It's kind of like a blocky bristle brush. It's their go-to brush, and I think they're using the same sort of sketch brush as their painting brush. It looks like it anyway. And you can see how they start painting over the line work eventually. For example, for the face, those sort of black lines initially they start to disappear, and it gets more refined. And sometimes it's not there anymore, you know. So I kind of have this process, or I've been playing with this sort of process where I sketch something in black, in very gestural sort of lines, and then I just paint over it eventually, kind of like this. You can still see the initial sort of strokes in black, and then eventually it becomes more of a painting, right? And I think it helps if you just leave the background white, because you don't have to overthink. So I'm gonna link this artist in the description below. But again, I don't have their, you may find their work more on Pinterest. Just search for this tag, this thing over here, and I think you may have a better chance of exploring their paintings or artworks there. I think I've done an art review of this artist before. Their name is Loom something, Loom, but I do like the way they emphasize the line work, and they do bold in like the full edge of the character, kind of like a Art Nouveau style, right? I think Adam Hughes is a comic artist. He likes doing the same thing, where he will bolden the entire character in this thick line, and it helps the character pop out, or anything just pop out a little more, and it really emphasizes like the full shape or the full silhouette of the thing. But this one just caught my eye because I want to try doing a little bit of this where I have some kind of line work. It's not an ink. It's a refined kind of line, but it's not like a final ink thing. It's almost like a pencil sort of brush being used. Like it's going to be a bit gray or colored, and then you add the colors after, while leaving in this sort of jittery line. I don't know. I just thought it was interesting. And this one doesn't have like an artist, sadly. Like a tag, like a name tag, signature. But you can see here, I think they're doing a promo for XP Pen, a stylus or a tablet. But for this kind of painting style, I am interested in it. If you look at the hair, look at that. The diversity of strokes. It has a little bit of that Leyendecker look. Basically, there you see the thick hatching sort of strokes, painting strokes here. You see it a little bit in the hair as well, and in the hat, right here. Let me just, can I do this? There you go, that's it. Some hatching lines here as well. And now this one's a bit faded out. And I've seen it a lot in the work of John Kafka. I've done an art review of his work before, and one of you mentioned how you want me to revisit his work or his more recent work. I may do that eventually. But I do like this style. And I think I've noticed how for some of the characters here, I do like the way the hands are drawn. Like it's so sort of dynamic-ish. Right? If I can try and replicate that. And like they're simplifying it to really strong shapes. Oh, that's an ugly freaking hand. Something like that. You know? And I want to be able to sort of simplify any kind of body part, but in a more simplified form. You know, I mentioned Adam Hughes, and if you look at his sketchbook sketches in pencil, usually in pencil, he will emphasize and simplify, like, let me show you, like a shape. He will simplify like a shape into like a triangle, or a very basic. There are some curves, but it's a very sort of basic shape. But the way he'll render inside of that, it's gonna be more volume heavy or realistic, where he will really show the gradients, the soft sort of subtle changes in values. And that's sort of his combination. He will simplify sort of the silhouettes of the face, the hair, but the way it's rendered within that, it's pretty realistic. And I think that's a cool approach, because you're not pressured to, like, you can approach things step by step. You start out with like super basic shapes, and then once everything has been solved from that phase, you start rendering the thing. Oh, you do see those big hat strokes, right? Again. And if you look at the brushwork here, there's no texture, right? They're not using brush textures or any kind of textured thing. It's very opaque, very plain, very like solid. Maybe some soft. Basically, it's a flat and then some shading in some corners. And then from there, they'll use some kind of gradient. It's very subtle, but you can see sort of the shift in value. But it's a soft gradation. And it's not very intense, you know? So I do like that. Right? Look at the eyes too. They have that small hatching thing. Pretty cool. It sucks though that I don't have a name for this artist. So if you know who this is, mention them below. I do like the hair. Definitely is pretty freaking cool. The shapes and everything. So that's also something I've noticed, I guess, or I can take away from this batch of images I've downloaded. Let me go. It's an AI, so bear with me. But I want to be able to illustrate hair like this, where it's all chunky, gestural. It doesn't have to be like so tight. And that's kind of the beauty of, not the beauty, but the what you can take away from these sorts of images. Yes, it's AI, but why am I convinced? For example, if a person did this, a real human being, a real artist, right? A real artist. I wouldn't mind if their hair wasn't correct, because sometimes I hear that argument from, obviously, artists. Oh, it's not like AI can't do it right, but are there artists? Are there not artists who sort of wing it as well? So I think the takeaway you can have is you can sort of just wing it and make it look somewhat what's the word? Convincing. Like you can be playful with it and very gestural with the hair. It doesn't have to be so tight, and it's still gonna look good, right? So you find some takeaways, if there are any, when you encounter images like this, you know? Yeah. Look at that. I like the coat, aside from the hair. I know it's a controversial opinion to like hair from AI. Like, even though it's like it's gonna look so mixed and sometimes squiggly, and sometimes you see some random stuff, but it kind of works though, right? It's the same thing with like folds. Anything that has so many shapes, you can just sort of wing it in a way. I mean, obviously you need to have some fundamentals down, but For example, do you fully understand what's happening in this whole shadow side? I mean, I can get the sleeve part. It's somewhere here, right? And then the fold is happening a little bit here. Something is being pinched. I mean, you get some of that, but you can just sort of wing it. So that's kind of a saving grace that you can just apply to your own work. It doesn't have to be correct. You can just sort of, if it looks good, like sometimes I feel like there are artists who approach illustrations or their artwork like a math equation or problem where it has to only come out one way, where you only have one answer. And I think they're forgetting that art can be like, you can bend a lot of rules. And yeah, for example, when you draw anime, when people draw like manga, anime, you'll notice the proportions, they're not always like based on 3D. Like they will make it look good in 2D. So sometimes when someone like a character looks at you from the side, it's gonna look like it's not based in 3D. Basically, like it's being skewed a little bit to make it look good. Hopefully we can find something here. Now this one is a bit different because like you can tell there's like a circle, right? But the sockets are sort of here. Like it's very... Well, even this is not totally accurate, right? Obviously it's stylized. But yeah, the point is you can play a lot more with the proportions when you're doing 2D art. I mean 3D art too, but art in general. It doesn't have to be like a math. You don't have to approach it like it's a math problem. You can bend rules, play around. I do like this look as well. I'm not sure who did this, but the whole ink look, I've mentioned a little bit of this in the past Sunday special episode, where that comic look or manga look where you leave in the blacks. I think it's more common in, well, manga and comics. And then having some basic sort of coloring. I think it looks good. It's great for like storytelling and stuff like that. Now this one, I have this artist. Let me just bring another thing here. I know like these two, they're from the same artist. I forgot their name, but their tab is open somewhere. So I'm going to be doing an art review of their work eventually. I do like their hands for some reason, like the way it's rendered. It's just so nice to look at for some reason. And I want to apply this kind of rendering style because you can tell it's, for example, this one is rendered flatly, right? But here in the area in shadow, there's more like a rendering, right? Like there's more form being suggested. And I think that's a good tip, you can either pick the light side or the dark side and pick one to render, basically. So sometimes it's going to be the dark side that's left almost like there's no value variation, and then the white side or the light side is more rendered out. Or in this case, the light side, let's say it's the area that's being lit, by some kind of light source. There's hardly any value variation, but the moment you hit the shadows, that's where you get a lot of the shifts in value, right? I remember talking about this, or I learned this from, I believe their name is, hopefully I'm remembering right, but Dino Illus, like one of those artists. They talked about how to do dramatic lighting. You basically want to pick one side. And they did a demo, the same sort of drawing. One drawing, the light side was more rendered. The area in light was more rendered. And in the same drawing, the second version, they rendered the shadow part. And both of them had different effects, but they both ended up looking very dramatic, So pick a side, the dark side or the light side. And again, I've been very fascinated with simplifying sort of your painting style, meaning you're focusing more on rendering and less on the painterly aspects, meaning not really focusing on brush variety, which is a big part of me. I'm very or I do like impressionistic artwork where you have a bunch of impressionistic / mixed media artworks where you have a bunch of brushes or tools being used and having that sort of mixed look. I think slowly I've been appreciating number one, drawing, but also this kind of rendering where you're using one brush to sort of flesh out the forms. And yeah, I like the sort of hands here. It's so dynamic. Like, it's not a boring hand. Like the way this wrist happens here, you have the side of the thing, right? And it just pops out again, the knuckle, right? Or the bone here. Do you see that? There's so much variation, so much, like there's like a story happening here when it comes to the contour of the hand. And I also like the way the skin was represented. I want to try this when I'm illustrating some feet, if you know what I mean. There we go. And because they look kind of natural but very dynamic, so I want to apply that to my foot stuff for the feet. Anyway. Here's a good example. I've mentioned how I've been seeing a lot of nice hands and feet. Look at how good that looks. Like, if you look at the breakdown, the silhouette, let me just try this. And then that. And then that. Oh shit. I'm focusing on the major outer silhouette here. I don't like that. That's a very simple sort of, oh my god. It's ugly. But you get the point. Like, it looks pretty dynamic as hell, you know? Pretty hands. Same thing here. Let's try and simplify it. So we have this thing over here, basically the sleeve. We have the top part of the hand, the knuckle that goes out, right? Another finger over here, another finger over here. We have a bit of a hole, right? We have a thumb protruding out. So let me just hit erase. Oh, shit. Excusez-moi. Oh, wrong. Oh, it's over. It's over. Why is it still the erase? Okay. It kind of lagged a bit, but you get the point. I want to get good at simplifying, like, obviously both hands and feet, because they're usually the thing it's basically its own body, because it has so many like protruding elements. You know, you have the thumb, right? And they sometimes interlock or intersect. The same thing goes with the feet. It's like a big body. For example, if you look at this whole thing, there are only 4 things going out. There's like the arms and the legs, and maybe the head, right? So imagine this whole sort of thing concentrated in like the hand and the feet, the hands and the feet. It's just gonna be so complicated, you know? So I want to learn how to, like, you can tell how good an artist is if they're good with the hands and feet. I mean, you can judge an artist in any kind of way or with any metric, but obviously they get a little more respect if they can draw some nice hands, some like good looking hands and good looking feet. Speaking of feet, there you go, that's it. One of my favorite sort of art pieces, paintings, it's by Jin Woo. I believe this links to their art station. Look at that. Looks like an MMA fighter, but I also know, I believe they're kind of, I've seen like is it Pokemon? Sometimes you mention anime that I know it's supposed to be like the standard, for example, Naruto, Dragon Ball Z, like those types. I haven't seen those, like the big shows. I did see one Pokemon movie where they were crying in the end. Pikachu! Pikachu! And all of their tears were going into like, I forgot who. Oh, Ash. I believe the guy's name is Ash, the one with the red hat. So hopefully I'm getting it right. I think this is supposed to be a Pokemon. I won't even bother, because I might make a mistake. Because sometimes I see your comments. Like, does this guy, is he like, I'm apparently missing out on all the big ones. But whatever. At least, you know, it's nice that you're commenting, so at least I know where they're coming from. This one's a piece by Wan Young Yun. Sometimes I go back to other artists that I've already discussed because I just like their artwork. I just like the freedom, the way he paints. He does have a YouTube channel, so I do recommend you check him out. He doesn't even talk in most of his videos. He just like does his artwork, and it's very reasonable in terms of the time because he will show the real time version of him drawing, painting, whatever. And a lot of his sessions last on average they're like around 1 hour, 2 hours, maybe 3. So we'll say 2 hours plus minus. But you can see him go berserk. He has one video where he spent like 7 hours on a drawing. And it's like, jeez, it's basically a chick with the oh, by the way, I'll talk about it's a chick with the blue. She's wearing blue. I think he featured it in his home tab. Just look for the 7 hour long video and you will see like it's basically the same process like this, but he just takes it or he gives it time to develop, and you can see like the rendering is like freaking god tier. One of my favorite artists, by the way. Oh yeah, I've been seeing some comments. Apparently some of you, not all, but you don't like it when I say chick when referring to women. Look, I'm not when I say that, I just mean like it's a female or a girl, a woman. It's like saying dude, but for the female version, right? So it doesn't mean anything like, oh, like I don't even know how it's super offensive, but yeah, just tell me where you're from because I want to know where that's not appropriate. Because when I say, look, I've been from kinder to middle school to high school to university. I've never had that reaction because with the way you're describing it, it almost sounds like a slur to women. Now you tell me. So, by the way, I'm open to receive suggestions as to how you would like me because, you know, yeah. So just comment if you have an issue with me calling women chicks, but just understand I don't mean like they're inferior in any way. I just think, for example, this one, I'll call her like a chick. You know, it's more like a descriptive thing. Oh, that chick is wearing blue, right? Or let's say, yes, this AI chick. It's just like I could say like, oh, this AI female, but it's a bit dry and a bit too scientific. And sometimes woman is boring, you know. Oh, look at this girl, look at this woman. It's like, ugh, you know. So anyway, if you're not a fan of that, I may not be the best channel for you because I do talk about mature adult stuff. Because I think in one of my videos recently, I think it was an art review of Dorajam, and also I believe the previous Sunday special episode, it got a lot of views. It got recommended. I checked the analytics. It got a lot of recommendations on people's home tabs. So I got this influx of new subs, so welcome. But I can tell if you haven't been here long enough. So just understand, I'm not gonna be like a safe person. Okay, in my uploads, because in YouTube, whenever you upload a video, you can set defaults. I purposely check not made for kids because I don't want to obviously include them because a lot of what I talk about can be very adult-ish, right? Basically mature, and it's not always safe for work. You know, so consider that, right? But you know, I do like it. Now this one, the line work is a little bit. Wait, is it AI? I don't think so. I do like the drawing. It's not a super tight. Like you will see some spaces in between. It's very loose. I think they painted it in grayscale after that, and then within that layer, that grayscale layer, they added the halftones. Specifically, they used the clipping layer to add that halftone effect to that sort of grayscale rendering. I think it's a good look. Oh, I also like seeing stuff like this in the edge. It just adds that sort of bleed. You will see this in a lot of like watercolor renderings or paintings. I think it's nice. Or it can be also considered like a core shadow, right? or some of you call it the Terminator line. Reminds me a little bit of the work of Mikamuse, because the variation of like, you have like black fill-ins, right? You have hatches, line works. When it comes to like inks, I think Mikamuse is a good example of variation. And let's go here. I do like this kind of look too. The lines are very loose, gestural, but for this artist, I think their tab is also open somewhere. They pretty much use the same colors all the time. It's this aqua-ish blue with this kind of pink with white or gray. And if you look at their line work, there's hardly there is no like line weight variety. It's just a one-sized brush. Reminds me a little bit of the work of henken. Henken? Is it henken something? Henken? Hopefully I'm saying their name right. If you look at their drawings, there's no line weight. It may look better if there's line weight, but this one's not too bad. I do like the way it looks, and yeah, I've seen this kind of artwork or their artwork for a long time, so I'm glad I was able to find it back. It's very conceptual, and it's almost always like a chick. Again, when I say chick, I just mean the girl, who's doing something. She's probably sitting down on her bed, and there's usually a lot of like paraphernalia. Big word. Basically, a lot of like random objects. Sometimes like she'll wear a bag. Sometimes she has like school materials or something. Her headphones. Sometimes it can get kind of techie, or is not techie, but there's a lot of accessories, right? And it looks good. I do like it. And it shows you, again, you don't have to have like line weight variety. I mean, even the rendering, it's just a bunch of flats. A bit of, I believe this is called ambient inclusion. Apparently, ambient inclusion is about shadows, like in areas where light is hard, where light is having difficulty entering it. That's where it's the darkest. That's kind of my rough understanding of it. So when people do inks in areas where it's pretty like where light is hard to come in, it's gonna be way darker, right? So you'll notice artists, especially like comic artists, manga artists, people who do ink or sometimes pencil, but usually inked work, in the corners, in the crevices of anything, they will add that kind of dark sort of thing, right? Pretty cool. This one's an original character from, I forgot the artist's name. I think their tab also is open somewhere, but maybe their name is Kafi. I'm not sure if the character's name is Kafi or the artist themselves is called Kafi. I do like this kind of painting too, right? Again, when you're doing anime, the moment you start doing some skin, you gotta be clean. Let me just go back to the one with the long name. Look at the face here. Look at how it eventually becomes like one clean shape. Like there's no variation here. It's just like one chunk here, another chunk here. You do see a lot of like value changes in the eyes when they start rendering like the iris, the pupils and everything, and the eyelashes. Same thing here. Look at the chaos with like the dress, but when it comes to the face, a very demure way of rendering the face. Because I think it works best that way if it's not too like rendered out. And most people who like render or paint anime, they give that advice. Easy with the rendering when it comes to the face. Be subtle, be demure, and go crazy everywhere else. So let me go back here to this woman or girl. Reminds me a little bit of the work of, it's a Taiwanese artist. Damn, I'm forgetting their name. Let me just find their work because they're a cool artist. Is it Taiwanese? They do a lot of office ladies or women or artists. Taiwanese artist, office. Like that's their like a favorite subject, office lady. I like the way they paint. I found it, but I need to find the name. Oh, Skyfire. Check out Skyfire. Let me write their name. Did I do an art review of their work? Perhaps? Skyfire. Or just search for office lady. Is it lady? And Taiwan. Because I believe they're Taiwanese or from Taiwan. Is that the right spell? Oh, you get the point. Skyfire or office lady. There you go. That's it. Yeah. But yeah, this one's a more painted look. I do like it. Although whenever you do this kind of thing, it's gonna take a while. Paintings take a while. I do see some hatching here and there, right? So there you go. I do like seeing that sort of it's not really line work, but it's a line. Like you're using it to define an edge. You could have just used like a white or lighter value, darker value, but I do like seeing it where you add a little bit of that indentation. Well, indentation. Big word. But yeah, again, look at the anime face. Very simple, very demure. Go crazy with the freaking hair. And the environment as well. So this one's actually a little more impressionistic. Which I do like the look, but the thing is, it does take a lot of time. And if you're trying to study, you want to sort of simplify your process because this thing will take too long. Now, if you're trying to do a painting study, meaning you want to practice your brush variety, your rendering, sure, go ahead. But, you know, right now, one of my goals is to sort of study and just get used to drawing like the anime. Kawaii, the face and everything, you know? So having to render it, I don't think it's not necessary right now. Once I have a good foundation, you know, right now, I think this is a good example of what I could go for, right? And this one, and to contrast that, you know, this is gonna take more time. Wait, I hear a car beeping. Hopefully you can't hear that. Oh, for this one, this one doesn't have a name, this guy, but I think you can check out the work of Silmo XILMO. I'm gonna be focusing, or I've been diving a little more deeper on this kind of thing where I just want to get used to drawing because I do have issues with drawing. I'm not very good at it. Like I can copy things one to one way faster when I'm painting, but when I'm trying to construct something, I'll say that I have issues or trouble with constructing things. So I think drawing, doing line work is a good thing to do. I mean, look at how loose everything is. Very sketchy, very crazy, very gestural, very chaotic even. But you get it, you know? And you can always add like some shading here and there. This is a good example of the whole pick one side to render more. So in this case, they're rendering more of the shadow again. And then they're leaving the area lit by light as like a plain thing. When you see that contrast, it just adds a more dramatic effect. So, see, I've been diving more on doing drawings. Sometimes in ink, sometimes in pencil. I mean, I still try to once in a while paint because it's fun to paint. But the thing is, again, it just takes longer. Like for one painting, I could have done like 5-10 drawings, quick thumbnail drawings. So if I'm doing a painting study, fine, once in a while. Or maybe I can do that intermittently. But I think the bulk of the work I should be doing now, given that my goal is to get better in like construction, is to do more stuff like this. I think this is a good example too, like being able to do character expressions. Oh, Jesus. And yeah, you know what I mean? This one's by, I think it's Rolua. 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 did the line work, right? So they're not painting it. They do rely a lot foundationally on a drawing. And it's not like a pencil ink or a pencil thing. It's like an inked line. And then they spend some time rendering the thing. I like the way it looks. They're one of the big ones. Rolua, along with Yoniyamamai, something. Again, this is cool too. It's kind of like the one with the long username that starts with J, right? But again, it takes a while. So maybe for every couple of drawings or studies you do in ink or pencil, if you're trying to do what I'm doing, where you want to learn construction a little more, and oftentimes you're tempted to paint something, then you can still paint. No one is saying you can't. Just space it out a little more once in a while. For every yada yada sessions, then you can do that. Right? Look at this. Very minimalistic. Very demure. Looks a little bit like Toji, but Toji, or this version of Toji, or this Toji adjacent from the Jujutsu Kaisen anime, he's a bit more thin, right? Toji's a little more like jacked, like freaking, you know. There you go. Oh, I do like this kind of artwork. I think I forgot this guy's name. Is it Kiji? I don't even know. Is it Kiji or Mogane? By the way, I'm just thinking of words that come to mind. Or maybe it's Moon. I'm just thinking of random words now. But I've seen there like some re-uploads on YouTube. But I do like this way of illustration. They do take their time. And they're not, it looks kind of simple, but it's not. Like if you look at the way they sketch in the beginning, it's they're very careful almost with the lines. And then they, you know, separate things, segment things. And they do, like once they have a good solid pencil drawing, like a more, like a finished looking drawing. I don't think they even ink their work, if I recall. They just have like a final drawing, and then the most of the video is just them rendering all the subtle. They're very good at subtle sort of blending, shading. And I think a lot of their artworks are massive, meaning they're big canvas dimensions. I do like the blur effect here, right? I do see a bit of like noise added in the end. It just adds a bit of grit. Especially for something like this where you don't even have that much texture brushes being used. And it's so amazing because they're using, I mean, look at that. That's a round brush right there. Like, or it's like an ellipse or flat brush. Basically, it's a basic looking brush. Nothing special. But the way they apply that brush, they will maximize the living hell out of that thing, right? The folds look great. And rendering anime faces, especially like the nose or mouth part, it's gonna be a little tricky because you're kind of combining 2D proportions. Anime is more 2D, right? But you're rendering it like it's 3D, so it is a bit more challenging, but you know, people like this have done it, so there is hope. And of course, the hair, it's like, oh, it's so cool. The shape design is so freaking. And the skirt too. I think she's she's from a game. One of those shooting games. I think there was a recent anime of it. They're basically a bunch of chicks, girls with guns, but they're not real bullets. And they have a teacher who's a guy who they kind of like. Anyway. Right? A good example again of the hair. I mean, this is AI, but yeah, is it always, does it make sense? Not always, but you can just sort of wing it because it still looks kind of cool. So I believe this is also by Rolua right here. Again, the line work isn't like it's not, they're not trying to go for a super tight line work. There's a bit of not jitter, but more it looks like a raw drawing. It's clean, but it's more raw. But they do combine that with their own coloring sort of style, right? But again, no textures. Interesting. And they do like adding this sort of thing. I'm not sure how you call it, but it's this light area. Subsurface scattering. Hopefully I'm saying it right. Right, where the light hits, you can see a little more of the skin underneath, I guess, being glowed because it's being hit by light. Hopefully I'm getting the theory of that concept correct. But you see, I guess, a lot more edge. Let me just write it down here. Edges. Oh my. Edges. Whether it's line work or even painting within those lines, you just see more of an edge. So what else? Oh, this one's from Kadeart. I do like when people do this because at least you can find their name. I know they do a lot of like fan art. I do like the drawing of this. Like this is the kind of drawing I think I could do, where it's a lot more. It's very similar. Like this piece right here, the way it's being drawn is very similar to where is it? To this. Focus on the line work. It's more granular. Is that a word? It's more. It looks like it's being grown, sculpted in a way, a lot more just rougher looking, but accurate. Okay, what else? I just like it. You know, I know Hero Academia is one of those animes that it just has so many seasons. So I don't even know if I can. It's just too much. I mean, I do know this is one of the more appreciated characters because obviously Bunny Girl, right? Oh god, I've seen so much fan art like, and it's yeah, I like it. See that mix between the color and the ink kind of style, the rougher, like it's more raw. And it feels like it was quickly, or it's more fast, or done fast. And you know, I do consider speed. I don't want to take too long doing something. For example, this one is a bit different. It looks like it was done, or it looks like it takes a while. Is that a bulge? Oh no, jeez. Damn, he packing. There you go. That's it. Armpit hair, interesting. Blue eyes. 6'5", Blue Eyes. It's a song. This one's kind of interesting. I just downloaded it for some reason because they did bash like a photo or a bunch of photos, photo bashing, and they're trying to match the lighting of that environment with their own drawing over here. I think it's a good mix, or it's a cool kind of technique to play around with. This one, I think I have them open in a different tab, but I'm having trouble finding the actual artwork for like this specific chick. This one's I think this one. Oh, let me just go here. This one's a random sketch. They do have a signature here, but it's been reposted so many times that it's now pixelated to oblivion. But it's an Evangelion fan art. This looks like the gay guy. I think he's gay or something. Or he has a thing for Shinji. Or I don't know, or am I just assuming? Like he's very sort of, what's the word? Ambiguous. You know, like you don't really like, oh, I don't, it's like, is he like an angel or something? Like you don't know what he's thinking. He's one of those. He's like a special person or something. The white hair guy. Although you do see him in the end in the Evangelion movie. He was talking to Asuka, the redheaded chick. So So this looks like the end sort of scene from Evangelion where it's kind of weird, or I still don't fully understand the whole movie or franchise, but basically sort of the end of the world. And yeah, this one looks kind of pastel though. I like that rougher pastel look. And look at how much you can, it's more of a narrative piece, right? And it looks quickly done, but it gets the job done, you know? Like you don't need to go in and just render every single thing. Like from this view alone, you're like, oh, I know this. It's that scene. Now, and it makes you think, like, why is this guy here? Like, was he not dead by this time? Or am I misremembering? But and if you look at the colors, it's complementary, red and green, right? I believe they're at the opposite ends in the color wheel. So that's a nice sort of a color scheme there, I guess. Now back here, we have some AI. Look at the hand. I do like the way it's rendered. I know I think it's AI, but I like it. Again, the hair, look at how, like you can just sort of wing it. A good example of just trying to wing out or wing the hair or wing it. But the hands to me is like, it's so nice to look at. You can tell it's a bit wonky, but you know, it gets the job done, right? She's from Chainsaw Man, the Blood Devil, I think. Again, with the line work, I'm liking this more. And you can do this way faster than, say, rendering, right? It's from Evangelion, except it's Rei, except she has long hair in this one. I want to learn how to construct stuff like this. Can I? Hang on, look at those. Right? And if they color it, it's just like a flat color. No rendering, no shading, no nothing. It's like a basic sort of flat approach. Very similar to Loom. Let me go back to Loom. Where's Loom? Like this one. Right? Or I think this is called cell shading, right? I believe it's called cell shading. Let me go down here. Oh, look at this. I mentioned before that even though there's no line work, they'll still have parts where they find the edge of something with a kind of line, a pseudo line work. You see this with a lot of character designs when they're painted, right? You see this indentation of thing, right? Oh, you see some hatching happening here in some parts. Even in the face, look at how in the neck, it's very minimal. It just adds a bit of, you could do the whole define the edge via negatives, meaning one side is lighter, one side is darker. For example, this one is a good example of that. There's no line indentation anywhere. But it's not, it just adds a bit more, like it cements it in a way. Oof, cements. Big word, cements. Right. Even in the back of the ear. Ooh, there you go, that's it. I think she's from a fighting game. There is some texture, but it looks more like like there's some noise in that texture. It looks like a gouache painting to me. I mean, obviously it's traditional, right? But it looks very gouache-y. Wait, is that a basic round brush? So maybe they build up the paint via opacity. I don't know. Meaning it's stroke after stroke until something solidifies. I don't know. But yeah, I don't see texture brushes being used here. I do like it. The composition is great too. Right? Ooh, look at that. Yeah, it's, what is it, Tekken? Street Fighter? Jeez. I think she belongs in the world of Chun-Li. I'm guessing right now, but oh, one of my faves, Yoniyama Mai. So this is actually both of their works. Although I do have a collection of their works that's more like this, sketches. They do have more like really refined illustrations where it's just so vivid and just dynamic. But I do like these types more. I think she did a couple of these like sketches. They're more like quick concepts, sort of concepts. But they look so dynamic and cool. I believe I showed it in one of my past Sunday special episodes where it's red. It's mostly in red, black, and white. It's a fan art of one of the characters from Chainsaw Man, I believe, the one with the scar on her face. That is also one of her works. Look at the inks. Do some kind of sketch in the beginning, but look at how in some parts it sort of bleeds right here. Right? It's so like quick, but it's so confident at the same time. Right? Boom, boom, boom. And you can actually follow their strokes because you know when it sort of fades out, when it begins, and when it stops like to a point. And then they do that. And for this part, they sort of fade it out. It's right? They fade that for this end of the line. But it can compensate, or they do compensate, because they just change the flat color underneath to show that this thing is sort of one thing that's a little separate, a bit different from the other thing that's being illustrated. So, and I think it works best when you have this kind of coloring style, flat kind of coloring style, and maybe you have one other layer for the shadows. You'll see it here in the face, I guess, or the area in light is just in white, so their shadow is just skin. Very interesting. Although just zooming out, you do see a little bit of what. Yes, they do use a blur thing here. Cool effect. I believe I mentioned, or it happened here too with this. I forgot the name of this artist. Moon Mogani something. Kiji. These are the words that come to mind, but I don't really know. Yeah, the blur thing is right here. Look at that. Oh, there you go. Sometimes it sucks because they're kind of not deleting, but taking away the details you've painted in or drawn in. So use it sparingly, right? But oh yeah, there you go. That's it. Oh yeah, there's a bit of a gradient shift here in the skin tone, and even here. Aside from the blur, look at how it gets more purpley here, right? And as you go further up, it gets more lighter. So that's like a soft brush or some kind of gradient tool being used. I think it works well a lot with the flats or this kind of coloring approach, right? You segment each part that matters, and then this one doesn't even have shadow, it's just a bunch of flats, and then you add the gradient. It's like a watercolor wash. I think it's a good sort of fit. Oh shit, we've been talking for about an hour now, 50 something minutes. So I think I'll end the art review Sunday special episode here. It was a good chill session. It wasn't bad. I did mention in the beginning that I felt kind of guilty or bad or disappointed about how I wasn't able to drag in a bunch of photos, but I think I should congratulate myself because I wasn't binging as much. I wasn't just dropping in a bunch of photos or images or artworks or paintings or whatever. I was a bit more, I had more self-control. I think some of you get me, especially if you're the kind of person who's so easily, like, you just like downloading images you like because you don't know if you'll ever find that image again. So I'm good. I guess it's also because I'm a bit choosy, and I'm getting more refined with my more demure with my art choices. So maybe that helps, right? Okay. And yeah, I think that's it. Oh, we forgot this one. This one's also by Rolua. It's the same thing. But yeah, I guess that's it for this art review. Hopefully you've enjoyed this session. Hopefully you've learned something. I will try to link the some artists I've mentioned in this episode in the description below. And yeah, I'll see you in the next week when we do a new batch of artists to review. And we'll also be ending that week with another Sunday special episode. So hopefully you enjoyed. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.